We have an entry for the reading series, and this is a good one. It got a lot of burn online over the past couple weeks, and I think it's worth highlighting. It is from our favorite publication, The Federalist. You know it's going to be good. The title of the article is "Men Did Greater Things When It Was Harder to See Boobs." The subheadline is, "To make America great again, we may need to make seeing boobs rare again." The author of this article is Amy Otto, and she is another conservative dime, for sure. She begins, while some have made the case that Kim Kardashian and her friend Emily Ratajkowski, you know, the Bernie babe, right, from the Blurred Lines video and Gone Girl, have, quote, made boobs boring, breasts are in fact so potent that they may be hastening our decline. Breasts and female nudity have always been eye-catching to positively distracting, depending on your sex. The sheer boobitude immediately available to either through online porn, Kardashian's Twitter feed, and Tinder, otherwise known as Uber for boobs, has rapidly accelerated to the point that men have stopped creating because there are so few obstacles to seeing them. Again, like every Federalist article, it's about 10,000 words, and there's like 3 different subsections, the first of which is called "Giving Sex for Free Destroyed Men's Motivation." And this is sort of like the Dave Chappelle joke about how if a man could fuck a woman in a box, he wouldn't need a house.
No. This is like they talk about it in Cumtown like it's a hack Def Comedy Jam thing. Like, yo, you got a fucking mortgage between your legs, girl.
She says, men used to marry younger and in larger numbers to lock down their very own real-life woman.
You gotta control that pussy, son!
He says, now, why bother doing the decent work of marrying and raising a family if you can swipe right and see a new pair every night? Quote, 70% of American males between the ages of 20 and 34 are not married, and many live in a state of perpetual adolescence with the ominous consequences for the nation's future, says Janice Shaw Krause, author of Marriage Matters. This is this whole thing where, like, of course, the Federalist is obsessed with this idea that people are marrying later and having less kids. Because, like any increasingly prosperous and modern society, that is just a fact of life. But they see a dire future in that, because essentially it means de facto there will be more brown people in America.
I mean, I want to reiterate, these are the not racist conservatives. The Trump people are the only racist ones.
She says, okay, in a bizarre gambit to gain equality, women gave away a ton of the power they had accumulated in society. They held a majority of the cards in sexual relationships, and facing a royal flush, decided to fold. Women used to set the cultural standards and parameters for intimate activity. Now, often guys wield more power over sex, and the girls are working way too hard, way too soon, for no reciprocity. More widely available hookups have made men less likely to commit. Okay, what I like about this line is she says that women have, in the name of feminism or the pill or career, have given up all the power they held in society, which was just access to sex. Right? So it's just like all the power you had as a sex object, you gave up to make money and do stuff on your own, I guess.
Like, women had it best when it was like one of those Dagwood cartoons where, like, she's like, are you gonna clean the kitchen? And he's like, oh, that's no. And then she's like, gives him a look, and she's got her legs crossed, and then the next panel is he's sweating and cleaning the kitchen, and it's like, yep, that was the acme of female autonomy, is when they could make men just their husbands do petty shit by denying them sex. Although that contrasts pretty dramatically with the Dennis Prager thesis on what women should do in terms of sex and marriage.
And now, if Amy Ott were on the show, I think what she would say is that the sexual revolution has made women into sex objects, but the difference is they've made them into cheaper sex objects, where it used to be, if you had a good, pristine, untouched sex object, you could get like a strong dowry, and you could advance yourself socially.
It depended on your husband for the rest of your life. But yeah, you could get him to, like, stop smoking cigars in the living room by telling him he couldn't get laid that night.
I mean, if you think about it, Who is more empowered than women who are in harems?
Okay, so it goes on and on and on, and there's like graphs in this article about how, you know, if men are allowed their run of sexually available women, then, you know, it's not worth getting into. But there is
this thing about how we're not gonna like create cold fusion or go to Mars.
Yeah, she's saying that like men are
It's mostly about how women can't get guys to do the dishes anymore, as opposed to men aren't going to build, you know, the next the next great invention or something.
So it goes on and on and on, but this is my favorite part at the end. She says, "This may sound a bit Trump-esque, but to make America great again, we may need to make seeing boobs rare again. Men did great things often in pursuit of women." And here's her example of this, and it's fucking brilliant. Eric Clapton in desperate love with Eric Clapton, in desperate love with George Harrison's wife Patty, wrote the famous rock anthem Layla in pursuit of her. Men used to be rewarded with attention from women based on their accomplishments. So there's two things I love about that. First, this notion that Eric Clapton didn't get to second base before 1970.
Yeah, he was this pissed off incel, and he's like in Cream, and they're like destroying the Hammersmith Ballroom, and then he's afterwards like, "That's gonna do it," and just can't get anywhere.
Yeah,
it's like, God damn it, I haven't written the perfect song yet.
These women are just too hot.
This is very Zack Snyder universe, where we're going back to the most powerful being of all is the incel.
Like Eric Clapton
Didn't write anything better after that. So he wrote Layla. He finally got laid, and then all he could do. What did he do? He did an instrumental version 30 years ago.
He was in Cream.
I mean, he was so.
God, her thesis has been proven.
Eric Clapton was so complacent after he got laid that he just like left windows open all over the place.
No,
it seems like the thesis that she's driving at really is that it should be impossible for men to get laid.
Yeah.
Offer them the opportunity, but you could never actually be consummated.
Well, Eric Clapton became a fucking asshole after he got pussy. Wow, she's right.
I love the idea that Eric Clapton was like, he was in Cream. They would go backstage, do like a termite colony of cocaine. And then he'd be like, "These birds are just too modest, mate. I'm getting no action." But the second thing this is actually my favorite thing about this, is that she uses Layla, the fucking squarest fucking, the worst rock anthem ever. It's just, it is the squarest fucking thing ever.
Yeah, this is like when Homer,
the pinnacle of like what Western culture produced back when it was harder for men to get laid was fucking Layla.
Yeah, this is like when Homer tried to make Uptown Girl his protest song.
It is like that. Who can forget when Lawrence Welk couldn't get laid in North Dakota, and just out of just sheer incel will created the Lawrence Welk Show?
I mean, if you look at how good art used to be. Like when guys couldn't get laid, they made amazing things like The Jazz Singer.
She didn't even use
the Pleasant Afternoon, The Unfuckable Dullard's Great Museum. Like all the classic movies that we know and love happened because no one fucked until they were 30.
She didn't even use the moon. No, they fucked at 18, but that was because they got married. Like she didn't even use the moon landing that John Glenn married young and only had one wife. He only had one wife his entire life or something, and he walked on the moon. Okay,
how does that? But if he was already getting laid when he got on the moon, how did going to the moon motivate him to get laid?
Because his wife was like, she did the Dagwood thing where he's like, "Duh, I don't want to go to the moon," and she's like, you ain't getting none of this. Yo, fellas, she's got a fucking Saturn V rocket between her legs.
Dude, all the American GIs that did the Normandy landing were just hoping to get laid from loose French women. That's why they beat Hitler.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah.
But speaking of the moon landing, I mean, the moon landing happened partially because of the creation of NASA and the commitment of President Kennedy, who we all know had an incredibly difficult time getting away.
He couldn't do it. Yeah, President Kennedy, like, he didn't fuck. He only had sex 4 times.
Maybe if we go to the moon, Jacqueline will finally give me a hand job.
Oh. Ich bin ein Incel. Kennedy was Pal from Pal's Bad Wife series of tweets. He's like, Jacqueline is going to Kenny Bugport. I have 47 minutes. I can jack off and play Halo.
So one more cut here, because in researching this, I always have to click like the name link to see what other articles she wrote for the Federalist, and I found one other amazing article from Amy Otto. This may be even better. This is from 2015, but you guys are going to love this. The title of the article is "How the New York Times Cultural Imperialism Influenced Its Marco Rubio Hits." She doesn't link to the New York Times article, so I don't know what she's talking about. This is linked to under humor, so I don't know if she's being serious or not. But basically, she says the New York Times had an erroneous focus on Marco Rubio's finances, and it revealed how a particular monoculture within their institution moves such pieces to print.
Oh, I don't know what she's talking about. There was this whole article that actually got a lot of criticism where it pointed out how Rubio is in personal debt.
Yeah. She says, as any expert on diversity is aware of the very differences in how cultures perceive time. As an Anglo-European focused culture, the New York Times staff heavily applied a monochromatic cultural perspective to Rubio's polychronic outlook. To the Times, life and acquiring goods should be in a single line, with each purchase begetting the next. The focus on achievement then reward, with little concern for family or community ties, is culturally narrow. Worse, it means that only those with wealth should act as if they have wealth, which will suppress aspiration among those not yet wealthy. And she goes on to compare monochronic and polychronic cultures. And the whole point of this article is that she's saying the New York Times is hating on Marco because he runs on CP time, basically.
Yeah, no, dude, this is awesome. This woman is like conservative bad Dominicana.
She has cornered the race and sex science market for the Federalist.
Yo, I'm talking about people talking about Marco Rubio can't buy no speedboat. They talking about colonial time. My ancestors came to me in a dream and said, you have to buy a speedboat before you pay off your debt.
I don't know. Again,
that's indigenous.
They could have a good time together.
Yeah, they could. They have the exact same values.
They have the same outlook. Because remember when Bad Dominicana was saying, like, you know, like men ain't worth shit. You can't do shit for me. At least the men in my community like give us money to get our hair done, even if they like punch you in the face every now and again. No, she literally said that. So I think her and Amy Otto have a lot in common.
Dude, and Bad Dominicana also said that people with indigenous blood can't learn math. So, like, congratulations is what I'm saying to Bad Dominicana for her future job at the Federalist. Yeah.
She says polychronic cultures are more conscious of past and present than future. Polychronic cultures include Latin American, e.g. Cuban, Middle Eastern, Asian, French, and Greek cultures.
A coherent cultural matrix there.
I mean,
a random bunch of bullshit.
Look, I've never heard of this, but that doesn't mean it's just a complete crank theory that an asshole made up.
Well, again, I have to issue the qualifier that this is listed under humor in the Federalist, so this could be an elaborate put-on by Amy where she's showing that she's pretending to be woke and accusing but she is saying Marco runs on CP time.
She is, yeah. Anyway,
Amy Otto.
Amy, can you please come right to the cafe?
Another gem at the Federalist.
Yeah.
Ladies, stop showing your boobs. We got to move forward as a culture. We're never.
This Earth is dying. We need to get to Mars. We're never going to get to Mars if we keep seeing your tits.
Don't put them on the glass.
You think about it. King Kong ruled Skull Island. King Kong meets a girl and he dies.
Yep. The tale as old as time.
Yeah.
Case closed.